Hello and welcome to ZorkCast Live. Today I'm
protecting myself.
You're protecting yourself, okay? Today I have with me my co-host for the show, Marc, and I also have my ZorkCast podcast partner in crime, Steve, and we're glad that people could join us today. We have a couple
this is already getting like too much
topics to go. Yes, Steve and I are currently experiencing a rather intense heat wave in the United Kingdom, and
it's crazy.
And nobody has air conditioning here, so it's making it rather interesting. And we also have Marc. I don't know how the weather is in Vegas. Marc, how's everything going in Vegas?
It is a beautiful day today. It's going to be about 105, which is normal for the summer. This weekend we'll hit 115. They already have the excessive heat warning ready for us, but it's fine. It's normal summer in Vegas. So for me, now that I've been here for so long, I'm used to it. Nothing bothers me.
Okay, nothing bothers you, really? I thought a lot of things bothered you.
Well, take it easy.
And just to give you a little bit of information about Steve, he is always on Twitter. I think probably 23 hours a day. It's a little bit odd. You can find him at Las Vegas, UK. He also has another Twitter account, which is called Casino Threads, which is for a clothing company that you have with casino stuff. And we're going to put up an offer later for that. Maybe you can explain that a little bit to people, but I don't know how that started or what the genesis of that was.
It's basically we sell cool t-shirts, cool hoodies. I'm wearing one right now. Related to casinos and Vegas, I guess, in particular, but it's just custom designed. It's a bit of fun. It's nothing too serious, but if you're interested, go and have a look. And we'll have an offer for everyone who's watching later on.
That sounds great. So let's dive right into our main topic today, which is about casinos streamlining casino marketing offers. And this is a topic Marc and I were discussing the other day, and Marc has a lot to say about this, so I figure I will let him start that off. Oh, these are Steve's topics, but Marc's are after this. I get so confused at where I have the I've got the list. Oh, that slide. Okay, here we go. There, so you also got a glimpse of what Steve's going to talk about. So
spoiler alert.
Yeah, spoiler alert, because I can't read my own notes. So Marc, cutting to the chase here, are casinos cutting back offers to focus on high margin customers? And I shared a little bit of your narrative, which was that casino marketing departments are essentially focusing on fewer customers that generate more revenue. Or your very eloquent translation, they just aren't marketing to the cheap fuckers. So Marc, what's going on here? What's your thought about all of this?
So casinos for the past, I don't know, maybe 3 to 5 years have been focusing on high margin customers being business travelers. For the most part, because they have expense accounts, they pay rack rate for rooms, they pay full price for pretty much everything they do outside of gaming, because they don't really game. They're not there playing the slots, playing blackjack for very long. They're a little bit more focused on the non-gaming amenities. And the COVID and Corona, whatever you want to call it, has really amped up their focus on a high margin customer, but a different high margin customer now. Because now they're looking at high margin tourists. So they're not looking for advantage players. They never look for advantage players anyway. So like people, smart gamblers like you guys, and probably everybody that reads.
Wait. You're calling Steve a smart gambler. Are you familiar with his gambling procedures?
I'm trying to be nice.
Okay.
Let me be nice.
Yes. This isn't the podcast, Michael. This is not the podcast.
Okay.
So, but they're not looking especially for people that are looking to get by on the cheap. They're looking for people they can profit the most from. And so that's they're looking for offers to bring to their casino. Yes, right now we're seeing people pulling coolers all the way through Wynn from one end to the other because the rooms are so cheap. So it's not like there's no deals around, but over time, every casino company is focusing their marketing efforts on high margin players, as well as, people that are just going to be there to fill it out. But with the limited capacity, when you only have 3 slots at a table, you want to make the most from that slot, from that blackjack game, or from whatever they might spend their money on. So that's really what the cusp of the idea is. It's a little bit more nuanced than that even, but that's really the gist of what they're trying to do. They're trying to streamline all their expenses and maximize their profits. So no matter what it is, whether it's a human being, whether it's, trimming down a menu at a certain venue, whatever it is, they're, one of the things that I found fascinating, MGM on their call, and this is stepping a little bit outside of what we're talking about, but they said that 25% of the people checking into Bellagio are now using the digital option on their apps. So they're doing it without visiting a human, which over time will allow them to employ less people. And that's all because of COVID and Corona. And so they're just amping up all their streamlined marketing efforts and I guess efforts with employment and everything within the properties.
Have you made a big differentiation? I know on some of these earning calls, you were getting some nuggets of information about this. Are they differentiating how they're going to stratify the player? Because, the different layers of players, have they been somewhat specific about any of that, on what players might expect or what they're looking at with regard to low margin gamblers? And then the other thing that I sort of wonder, and I guess this probably wasn't addressed, is if the properties aren't full already, does it really matter? Or maybe we're not just talking room offers, maybe we're talking free play and other perks, or was it more generalized kind of statements?
It was more general statements and more overarching. So nothing very granular, nothing very specific, not like they were not as blunt as I was when we were talking about it, where they're saying we'll get rid of all the cheap fuckers. They're not doing that. And this isn't an especially new tactic. If you can make twice as much money from one person as opposed to 2, why would you market to 2 people and tax your employees, tax your entire staff, when you can make the same amount of money from one person instead of 2? So that's really, I think, what they're looking at.
Do you think?
I guess as well, is it the type of player and the fact of you're going to try and, because you're getting less people right now because occupancy is way down. Are you perhaps really focusing on how you're going to squeeze every last cent out of every single person that walks through that door? Because I always thought, well, maybe do you just make it cheap and get as many people in as possible? But maybe actually that's not the way to go. It's have less perhaps people, but people with a higher income who are perhaps going to spend a lot more within your property.
Yeah, they're trying, and it's not all high income people, even though you mentioned higher, which it is. They want the most profitable people. They don't have to be big spenders. They could be low spenders that just play, like my friend Michelle plays Mississippi Stud, one of the worst house heads into the casino. They want her because she's going to splurge for a Milaggiata. She's going to go downstairs to the Cromwell if it ever opens again, and play the worst game in the casino. Then she'll go get wasted and play War, for God's sake. So they want people like that. She's playing only $5 and $10 tables, but they want people that are playing that, as opposed to maybe a sharper person that has big money that's only going to net them, let's say, $100 in high limit baccarat. They really would rather they don't care how they get it. They just want to get it.
Yeah.
I do often wonder, when it comes to, equations that casinos have for determining the value of customers. Now you have this very interesting scenario where you have a lot fewer people at house bank table games. You have 3 people at a blackjack game. And if you would think about it from just a business perspective, it's actually costing them more to run the game now, right? I mean, if you had an average number of people that you would, and of course it's all got to be blended averages. Now you only can have 3 people at a game. So you do have this, you've always had this yin and yang where people are like, why is that table empty and a $25 or a $50 table? Well, because they expect players to come along who are going to play for 25 or 50. They're not going to they don't want to fill up the table with $5 and $10 players. But now you have that added difficulty of the fact that you only have 3 players at the table. So even more so, you don't want to necessarily make the table a $10 table, because now it's even worse, right? Now you could just fill the table up with 3 $10 players. So I think a lot of that is probably just forming. And I think probably, I don't know if you've heard anything about this or anyone's spoken about it. Obviously, nobody's going to make big decisions right away to change what their formulas are, because they're not sure how long some of this is going to last. But I have to imagine, at least with table games, that they're thinking about some of that, because the labor cost is crazy. I mean, the labor cost for dice is crazy with 6 people at a table. So I'm sort of wondering, have you heard anything about that, Mark, or does anyone mention that?
One thing you probably noticed, and I'm sure Steve, through his looking at Twitter, has seen tons of pictures of more electronic table games. So we have a lot more video installations for those low rollers. So you're not going to fill up every single table with $5 and $10 blackjack players on the strip. Those players are going to be ushered over to the machines, kind of like the Venetian's been doing for a couple of years now, where they have the $5 and $10 games are over at the stadium blackjack, but the minimum at the regular table is $25. I think we're going to see more of that. This way, you're not taxing the labor, though few dealers that you do happen to have on hand.
Yeah, that's sort of interesting, and that makes a lot of sense.
So those machines generally have worse odds too, don't they? So you lose the edge immediately that way.
It depends on the casino, but yeah, like that. If you go to Park MGM, you'll play human dealers 6-5 blackjack, which is bad. But then you go to the machine, it's 1-to-1 blackjack, which is
See, we're laughing, but the number of people that would just sit down at that machine and play it, even I wouldn't do that.
Those machines are packed, which blows me away as someone that pays attention to that stuff. But at the same time, when you're there blowing $100 a day, you don't really care, about that 3% difference or whatever the number is.
It's the same with video poker, isn't it? I play video poker at Chandelier Bar with worse pay tables because I like the drinks there. Not really. If I'm playing,
that's a positive move. I tell people that all the time. If you're a drinker, especially, look where you can get a better drink. At Caesar's properties, you're going to get X, Y, and Z spirits for your mixed drinks. Chandelier, as you well know, you could get the best bourbon they have. For a couple of things. I believe you might have been the one that said if you have 4 tickets, you get a whole bottle of wine or something.
Yes, I did. I got a whole bottle of red wine. Yeah,
so it's a great tip. Bang
that's very European of you.
But think about the idea. You get a terrace room. You get to have that beautiful view of the Vegas Strip. You bang out $100 on the video poker at the Chandelier Bar. Bring the bottle back up. Smoke a stogie. Enjoy the fresh air. It's a great idea.
Absolutely.
Yes. Just stay on that thought. This is our next topic, is our favorite sucker bet. That's going to be our next thought. But it is very interesting when you mention that, and this originally when we talked about drink tickets originally, everyone was like, this is going to be the worst. This is going to be the worst thing ever. But actually, for people who play, the fact that you can get premium things that you could never get before, that would have always required you to pay for them or charge them to your room, it's actually it's one of those kind of weird situations. The situation that's gone now is the old, I'll put $20 in the machine and play, 1 quarter and get some free well drinks or get a Bud Light. That person's all upset because he can't basically not gamble and get free stuff. But the people like Steve, who can't stop gambling, they basically now get the advantage of being able to use these tickets for something which is a hell of a lot nicer than a well drink. So it's sort of funny how you look at that kind of thing. And I guess it all depends, it all depends what you're looking for. But I mean, I guess that's definitely, yeah. So no, I think that's sort of interesting. So I wanted to ask you, I had a short video to, I had a short video to share, and it was about, what is your favorite sucker bet? But can you guess what my favorite sucker bet is?
You like the tie and baccarat.
How did you know?
Because we talk.
We talk. Okay, so I'm going to play this video, which is one of my super secret casino videos, and I will mute everybody's sound so that you can see my favorite sucker bet and my even better sucker bet of my favorite sucker bet. And then I'm curious about what your guys' favorite sucker bets are. So here we go. What was that?
That was a triple tie.
Triple tie. What does that mean? Like 3 ties?
Yeah.
You should never bet the tie, right?
You should always bet the tie.
We got a triple tie. How do you feel about a triple tie?
It feels awesome. I love triple ties.
Really?
Love them.
What do you love more than triple ties? Quad ties?
Yeah.
So, your favorite sucker bets. What are they? I guess you probably have to turn your audio back on now.
I can't really answer that question because everything I play is a sucker bet, really, because I play slots.
Do you ever feel, though, that there are certain situations when you play slots that are less advantageous for you, or not, or that you feel like you're more of a sucker than a regular sucker playing slots?
That's like the most confusing question I've ever heard in my life.
Well, it's the heat, okay? I think we've addressed that already.
I'm like thinking, how the hell do I answer that question? I can't even remember what the question was. I think it's just, random number generators, isn't it? I mean, if I was playing video poker, I would probably, like I said, I would just play wherever I wanted to drink. But that doesn't make me a sucker because I'm playing for a different reason, right? So, I don't know.
You don't know? How about you, Mark? Yeah.
Hold on. Let me ask Steve a question. Do you play anything under... do you bet on slot machines anything that will not pay out a bonus or like a jackpot?
I guess sometimes, but not too often. I'd always play the higher denomination. I don't tend to play for progressives at all.
Okay.
Or very rarely. Well, was that my sucker bet?
That's your sucker bet, yeah.
Well,
when you don't play enough to maximize, because the house edge is formed by those progressive jackpots. So if you're not playing enough to qualify for that, that's your sucker bet, which is fine.
Yeah, I would say maybe 10% of my play is with a machine with a progressive. I just like the lights. I'm the worst gambler ever. Like, oh, this looks good. I'm going to play this.
We are definitely like the yin and yang of gambling. the two of us, like, we have like no like similarities in gambling at all. Actually, I don't think
my problem is like, oh, $100 Wheel of Fortune, yeah.
It's crazy, and we got to get you on a dice table. I actually have never played dice with Meltzer before. I don't know why that hasn't happened. I think we always wind up eating.
Yeah.
I don't know. A lot of times for me, my favorite gambling is by myself. So I don't really like gambling with other people that much. I sometimes do.
Michael just doesn't like people, really. Let's be honest. You just don't. Like
I'm
people,
very unfriendly.
You're very unfriendly.
I am very unfriendly sometimes. Yes. So that's I do like gambling. So what's Mark's sucker bet? What's your favorite sucker bet?
So I pretty much have a sucker bet for everything. So let's start with slots. I am a sucker for anything loud and bright. So you give me flashing lights, I will donate whatever I have in my pocket just to see what's going to happen. I actually learned a lesson from that when I was younger because I've always liked bright lights and loud noises. I now only donate $20 at a time instead of $100 at a time, which I think is sharp for me. So that's my slots game. I love video Keno on the nickel denomination, only the nickel progressive, which is probably the worst odds of all video Keno. But when I see this giant jackpot, I'm like, I'm going to get it someday.
Just keep trying.
That's my poison when I'm at a Boyd casino because I believe they're all linked. And again, $20 in there, you'll get my attention for 5 minutes. I'm in and out. If I win, which never happens, great. If I lose, which always happens, well, I'll live. It's only $20. And then on the table games, I do play Mississippi Stud with my friend Michelle whenever she's here. It's the worst game in the world, and they have a side bet as well. And I'm a sucker for a lot of this. For a lot of the like if I'm at a Caesar's place, the Millionaire Maker bet, which I just whether I'm playing Pai Gow or 3-card poker or Mississippi Stud, I'm just a sucker for that because I don't want to miss out, and I am there for a good time as much as I am for trying to be smart about my money. There's a limit to how smart I can be without just being dumb. And
I have a question.
Yes.
Do you think that you play more sucker bets because you can basically go to play whenever you like, or do you think you play less of those?
No, I really don't play a lot of sucker bets. I generally get yelled at by dealers, but when I do play sucker bets, I'll be all in or all out.
How about at craps?
Yeah.
What do you play at craps?
My sucker bet on craps is probably not really too suckerish. It's a hard way, and then just progressing the hard way if I hit one.
Do you always parlay the hard way? Do you do a nickel and then parlay?
I just go up a unit, so it's $5, $10. I have friends that will parlay it, but I love the
word parlay. I love saying parlay, especially the
It sounds European.
Parlay.
Honestly, one of the best things you could say at the craps table and get a little like, whoa, really? You're putting $30 on from a $5 bet? You're amazing.
I only once parlayed, and then I pulled it back and I did a half parlay of a midnight.
Have you ever parlayed a dealer bet?
Yes. Well, actually, I usually give them a choice. So usually I do piggyback. So dealers on top of my bet, and then I say, I'm going to parlay. You're welcome to choose if you want to parlay or not. And I would say almost 90% of the time they follow what you do.
Right.
Which I think is the right way. You see, this is all interesting stuff, Steve. We're going to move you over to the table game side. We're going to get you away from all that slot stuff.
But they're all around me, and then they just tempt me.
I know. You like that progressive top dollar, too. You didn't know about that.
Yeah, I didn't know about that because I don't play progressives. There you go, you see.
Yeah.
And did I not help you there? I helped you out.
Yes, I think I won some money on that. You probably remember.
Yeah,
I have a horrible memory for those thing. So somebody asked what a parlay is in craps. Here, Mark, you do it. You explain a $5 parlay on a hard 8.
So a parlay is when you take all your winnings and just put it back on the bet. You don't take any cash back. You just put it on. So let's say you bet $5, you win $40. Your next hard 8 is going to be for $45. And then when that hits, now you're bringing in the cash. So
Yeah, you're basically letting your bet. You're pretty much so letting your bet ride. Pretty much so.
Yeah,
You hear
with
people
the
do a
winnings.
lot of video poker too, don't they? They parlay quite a lot of video poker.
They do.
So I've heard. I don't do it. I just like keep shoving more in.
Well, there is that like
Parlay.
there's a double up thing at video poker. Sometimes they used to have that double up feature on
Yeah.
some machines. I don't pay that much attention. Video poker, I find to be very boring unless it has a lot of lines or is like super times pay or something like that. But
Super times pay is super fun, and it used to be a good way to get diamond in a day at Planet Hollywood too. See, we gamble with an edge.
Yeah, that's well,
What do
diamond
you
and
call that gambling with an edge?
diamond in a day. Yeah, I'm not so sure it's so much of an edge. So now we get now, hey, at least people can't say we're not honest. So now we're going to get to that portion of the show where we talk about the things that actually Steve spends a lot of time talking about. When Steve is not talking about when British Airways and Virgin are going to fly from London Gatwick again. It's a personal joke. I don't know if we want to explain it, but basically the London Gatwick thing is Steve has a lot of thoughts. The other thing which I'm really curious about, and I'm hoping that today will be the day that you can finally, clue me in on this, on why people from the UK are so obsessed with Luxor. Because I'm often quite perplexed about that. So Steve, your top tips for British visitors to maximize, with an S, their Vegas experience.
Well, this kind of fits in with the Luxor thing. I'm going to kind of handle these questions sort of at the same time, I guess, because a lot of the reason that people want to come to Vegas from the UK is they're not doing like 3-4 day trips, right? They're coming for like 10 days, 2 weeks, which to you guys probably seems like a really long time to spend in Vegas. To me, it does, because I go to Vegas for a different reason. Perhaps other people will go to Vegas. I'm thinking, okay, I don't want to spread my bankroll too thin. I'm only going to go for 4 or 5 days, even if it is a 10-hour flight. But you've got to remember, these people are flying for 10 hours. Now, as Michael knows, the Brits love a travel agent, right?
Mm.
Seems really silly. Hardly any Brits will book direct with the hotel, which is like a terrible thing to do, particularly in Vegas, because you're just losing out on comps, right? This is something I try and educate people with on Twitter. The Luxor is one of those hotels that travel agents tend to book people into, which I think is why this is the honest truth. It's either the Luxor or the Excalibur, because I guess it's fairly cheap and they can sell it cheap, and then they can whack some profit on, and there you go. So that's what I think part of the reason why people like Luxor. I think the other reason is in the UK, the image of Vegas is still that image of the 90s where everything was a big theme, right? So things like Excalibur, the Luxor, the Pyramid, the Excalibur, the castle, those kind of things that you're starting to see less of. New York with the New York skyline, they're like big things. And that's what people want to see if they're coming over for 10 hours, particularly if it's their first time. But even like a lot of the people that follow me on Twitter who are from the UK, they always want to go up the Eiffel Tower, even if they've done it a million times. They want to go and see the Luxor. So I think that is part of the reason. Also, British people are kind of, I personally think, and I'm British, so I feel I can say it. I apologize if I offend anyone else British out there. We're kind of like stingy. We like a good deal. But if you're staying somewhere and you're going for 2 weeks, you maybe can't afford to stay in a nicer hotel and spend all that money, right? And for some people, it's more a case of, I want to go to Vegas. I want to have my 2 weeks there. I want to get the best value place because I'm not going to be spending loads of time in my hotel room. And I think Luxor kind of fits that. And I'll be honest, some of the new rooms in Luxor, if I had to stay, I wouldn't be that upset. I mean, they look okay. They're not fantastic.
Well, I think that's a big point.
Right.
That's a point that we've brought up before on the podcast.
Yeah.
Especially with the renovations, because I think Luxor's recently renovated and so has Excalibur. Of course, sometimes the renovations in these properties take forever. I mean, if you ever follow bizarro renovations, to me, I think Flamingo is like the most bizarre renovation, right? They started with the Go rooms, then they did fabulous rooms, then there were some rooms they still haven't renovated. It's like Caesars had like 4 different levels of renovations going on at once, but I think they still have like unrenovated rooms, so it's very, very tricky. But in the properties that have managed to renovate most of the property, which I believe is Luxor and Excalibur at this point.
Excalibur, I don't think has, but Luxor has.
Okay,
Luxor
but this is okay. So let's stick with Luxor. The standard of a room at Luxor that's been renovated is far beyond what you would get at that price point in Europe at like a Holiday Inn or something like
Absolutely.
that.
Yeah.
So I think that's part of it, is that they actually look pretty swanky to people who don't travel and stay in luxury properties all the time. So
you also have to remember that European hotels, they're not big, they're small, and the room size is much smaller. So if you're staying in a standard room at the Luxor, that's a pretty big room by European standards. Harrods is another one that has nicely renovated rooms now.
Yeah, no, that's a good example. So I would say the standard for these hotels and what people are getting, and what was interesting, what you were talking about with the travel agent markup, and this week I think Caesars is having a sale with $10 rooms at Harrah's that they have. Honestly, some of these travel agents are getting these rooms for such a low price, and they're adding some markup to it. And even with that, it comes along as a smashing deal to someone for. I mean, it does always amaze me whenever I go on YouTube and I watch some British YouTuber, who's just chronicling their story and like, we're checking in for 14 nights. I'm like, checking in for 14. I'm like, are you moving into Las Vegas? Like, I can't just imagine the checking in for 14 nights, especially because I travel like an American, where every trip is actually, except for my last trip to Las Vegas, where I felt like I was there for years. I don't, everything's always a couple of days. So this concept of actually checking into a hotel for 14 nights. So it's, and I actually think some people have questioned before. I guess another cultural thing, which is different, is people are very likely to check in because of these travel agent deals to one hotel for the entire stay. Whereas once they learn the comp game and they're like, oh, I've got 5 nights at Park MGM, I can use these 3 discounted nights at Caesars, and then I've got 5 nights at the D. I think once they start to learn the comp game, then they start to switch hotels because they see the advantages there. Because of course it's very unusual to get a comp at a casino for 14 nights, and
the other beauty is if you were to stay, say, at a Caesars property for 4 nights, then go to an MGM property for 3 nights, you could then go back to another Caesars property because you've had the allocated time away, if that makes sense. So you can definitely do it.
One thing that Steve mentioned, I think that's important that we're sort of forgetting, is that the Luxor and Excalibur, even Mandalay Bay, are MGM properties. And they focus more so on that kind of travel as opposed to Caesars, who really depends on their database, on their Caesars Rewards database. So they want people booking direct. They're very proud of the fact that whatever the number is that does book direct with them, they're not bothered by any of the OTAs or traditional travel agencies where people may stay away from. They want people that want to be part of Caesars. And that's an important part when looking at the offers. So to what Steve said, though, I think is a great idea, doing 4 nights for one place, 4 nights the other, go for somewhere else for some time. But people are lazy and they just want to have somebody do the dirty work and just, I'm here and that's it. I'm done.
It depends what your goal is going, isn't it, really? Right. And it's interesting what you say about Caesars, because I very rarely see Caesars properties, perhaps with the exception of Caesars Palace, really being advertised to a massive degree over here. It tends to be more Luxor on those kind of properties, which is interesting because I think I always tell people stay at somewhere like Treasure Island if you're going for the first time, because you're going to get a good value room, you're bang center of the strip. Now Harrods is a good option now because they renovated. I didn't really like the look of the rooms there beforehand, but there's so many options now. There's no reason why you should have to book through a travel agent. There's no reason why you have to stick with that end of the strip, because you're not really either in the action, are you? If you're staying at the Luxor, you're still going to have to travel a fair amount. The other thing to mention is a lot of people will book their hotel and flights as a package deal when they're coming from Europe, which which is another reason why people will go and stay at certain properties. And I think it's going to be interesting when the whole Virgin hotel thing happens with Virgin Atlantic. Are they going to start doing deals where you can fly with Virgin, stay at Virgin? I don't know. Who knows what's going to happen there? Because that's going to be a Hilton, right?
If Virgin ever flies again. Well, I keep forgetting that they're associating with the Hilton program. I'm very key on the
curio,
fact,
isn't it?
Yeah, I'm really keyed in on the fact that Mohegan is running the casino. So that's going to be sort of interesting. So I guess that casino is going to be Hilton, and then Momentum. I think Mohegan's going to do Momentum Rewards, so it'll be similar to like the Cosmopolitan, like Identity and Marriott, where you have both of those going on. So that always brings up some interesting opportunities. But I think obviously the thing that comes to mind immediately with Hilton, because we know a lot of people who are top tier Hilton Diamond, is going to be how they're going to treat Hilton Diamond members at that.
Well,
but
yeah,
it's a curio though. So
well, yeah. And at the moment, if you go to the what was the Mandarin Oriental, it's the Waldorf Astoria now, right? That's the brand it is. The Diamond benefits are pretty good, but there's no other program there. Whereas if you go to Cosmo and you try and use your Marriott status, you're not going to get that much. Because really, Cosmo are caring about their identity players, and you have to kind of pick, which program am I going for here? Yeah. So that'll be interesting to see how that works out longer term. And isn't Resorts World going to be something to do with Hilton too, or am I making that up?
Mark's been covering that. Yeah,
we're going to have a Hilton Tower, a Conrad Tower, and an XLR, I believe, or LXR or whatever luxury thing for that'll be like
that's interesting because the Conrad and LXR are right up there at the top end, aren't they? Right. The Hilton sort of. So that's interesting. I don't know how they're gonna market that or how that's gonna work.
What's the date?
From what I understand, Steve, they're gonna have the big tower is gonna be Hilton. Another one of the larger towers is gonna be Conrad, and then the XLR is like 4 floors. So it's going to be super.
Okay,
great.
So that's going to be the.
So that'll be.
Are you going to be able to? Are they going to do? Are you going to be able to get comps?
I have no idea. If you're a big enough roller, you can get a comp anywhere.
Yeah. Interesting.
What's the date for? You see, I can't even keep. I honestly refuse to commit any dates. When the minute somebody says Resorts World, I just ignore. All. I figure tell me when it's opening next month. Tell me when it's actually really opening. What is the estimated date now?
Summer 2021.
Okay, that could be interesting.
Maybe we'll be able to travel again finally by then. Because I currently can't get into the United States, so.
Yeah, well, you could say it's essential business. Get a YouTube channel.
Yeah, maybe I should.
No, we shouldn't say that. Reasons not to. So, how have things been in Vegas, Mark? How is it? How are people feeling? So what are we on now? The casino's opened on June 4th, so now we're 60 days later. How, if you had to sum up really briefly how things are today as opposed to 60 days ago when they first reopened, is it easy to do that, or what's the vibe?
I really don't know, because I'm pretty much sheltered in place for the most part, so I don't really go anywhere outside of picking stuff up. I bought a recliner yesterday, and I bought I go everywhere to pick stuff up, so I'm not really spending much time anywhere. I mean, the locals seem fine. I went to a bar on Saturday. It was pretty dead. They actually had stand-up machines as opposed to the bar top machines. Nobody was playing because there were only 6 people there. I haven't seen the casinos because I was so freaked out by the experience I had visiting you at Caesar's Palace. But I'm I don't
Thank
really.
You. I'm honored. I
would
also
be freaked out too. Especially when he invited you up to his room, I'd be like, well, no, I'm not doing this, Michael.
See, the weird thing is that he's fine and everybody else is crazy. That's when you have to start worrying, and that's why I was bothered. But I think the luxury properties are treating people better, but honestly, I really don't spend that much time there. I'm spending it out in the burbs where I live, and everything here seems pretty normal. I was at a breakfast joint the other day, actually on Monday, and there were people there working, eating breakfast, drinking coffee, and working like it was a normal day. The tables are socially distanced. Everyone wears their mask until they sit down. So there's a lot of people treating this thing with respect. At the same time, the things you hear on the strip in the casinos, it's not quite that way. So I don't really know what the entire city's like. I just know what my experience is like. And everything is fine. My friends are respectful. People they know are respectful. And everything business-wise seems to be slow but normal. But very slow. And you definitely have to feel bad for the employees. Like I said, I was at a bar on a Saturday night and there were 6 people and they were not even. And that's not good for anybody at a bar that's normally packed. People don't even know that there's gaming in there, where they could have played video poker. And if you are a video poker player looking for the worst limits like Steve, you could go to a PT's Pub and they have, maybe 10 standalone video poker Keno slot machines. But people don't really know they exist. That's probably a better place to gamble if you're worried about being around people than, being in a casino full of people on it that are inside of a casino, because they don't really have capacities posted. So you don't really know if the casinos are going to have capacity like they're supposed to be. So it's a difficult thing if you're really concerned about who you want to be around and what kind of environment you want to be in.
The thing is, you could get this thing anywhere, couldn't you? Correct. You could live in a leafy little village in the middle of nowhere and get it, and then someone could live in a massive city like London and not get it. You just never know where you're going to pick it up.
No, it's absolutely true.
I've just realized how dark it's getting here too. I'm I'm fading away.
What's interesting too, and I realized this because Daryl's joined us. Daryl's had some crazy stuff happening with weather. He had a tornado literally hit his house on Friday.
Wow.
which I don't regularly think of tornadoes on the East Coast. I don't know if that's correct or not. But
it is not correct, because I had a friend in Jersey that was probably hit similar to the way Daryl was. He texted me. He's like, I have to go to a hotel for a week because I can't be at home because our house got destroyed. Probably not destroyed. I think he's embellishing a little, but a tree falling on it, having to be repaired, does not make for a place where you want to keep your young child and do some work. So he ended up going to extend his stay for a week.
Well, that was my pivot on this bringing up tornadoes in New Jersey, was pivoting a little bit to the casinos. But what I thought was interesting is some of the really, and I was talking to someone the other day about it, some of the really creative things that the casinos in New Jersey have had to do, because there's still no indoor dining. And there's no beverage service at the machines or at the tables anymore. And certain casinos have done a whole bunch of new outdoor spaces. And I don't know if you have been, I'm sure you've followed this somewhat, but like Ocean Casino, which was the former Revel, they took a level of the parking lot and turned it into a VIP lounge. And I thought that was cool. And Hard Rock's taken their Plum and put it outside. I heard they are doing I think 7 stars at Caesars. They're using the pool area as a lounge, because you can have outdoor dining in New Jersey. So you can only have outdoor dining. But I thought that, and also Borgata, from what I can tell, they turned Amphora Lounge into an outdoor lounge that's outside of the indoor pool deck. And I guess they use the indoor pool deck area as the place for the buffet for Amphora. And then they set up all the tables outside and tenting outside. So it's really impressive to see their creative solutions, but goodness, what a huge amount of work. And when I see that, I think about how tough it is in Vegas, but at least you guys pretty much so, I guess, have everything operating. I mean, spas are operating if they want to be. Indoor dining is operating. What is not operating right now in Vegas at a property? Not by choice, but
bars, isn't it?
Bars are closed.
Yeah.
That's probably the biggest issue. But to what you just said, and that sort of goes all the way full circle to the way we started. You're listing out amenities for the richest of the customers, for the most profitable customers. My friends that are low rollers, they're like, we were there and it sucked. It was miserable. We couldn't drink in the casino. Everything you just mentioned.
Yeah. No, this is a good perspective.
My friend called me over the weekend. He's like, yeah, we were going to go to Johnny Rockets, like get an affordable meal out on the boardwalk. 45-minute wait for a cheeseburger at Johnny Rockets, where you're sitting on the boardwalk and any Joe Schmo can walk by and, do whatever to you. So he was bothered by that. On the weekends and the summers, Atlantic City is a beach town. So it's packed. There's nowhere to sit outside of anything. All the benches are full. They ended up getting a slice of pizza somewhere and eating in their car because they're they got a pie and some other stuff. And they're like, we can't deal with this. And they ended up going home early because they're like, there's really nothing here for us. The only restaurants with outside dining there might be one cheap option and everything else is fine dining. And for people looking to not spend too much money, it wasn't the most optimal or even passable situation. So it's interesting that they're doing both. There's a limited amount for the lower rollers and more for the higher rollers, but that goes full circle to what we were talking about before, trying to make sure you maximize your margins and treat your income generators a little bit better than you do than your non-income generators.
Yeah, and also, I'm for the first time ever, I saw an email this week from Borgata actually advertising like their room service, which is unprecedented. I hate that word, but I mean, but basically, in Atlantic City, one of the other options is room service, but that's an extremely expensive option well, first of all, you have to have a room at the hotel. Hotels frown upon you ordering room service if you don't have a room, and also rooms. You like that one. And also room service is expensive. And the other thing that comes to my mind all the time is that I never found the room service to be that quick at Atlantic City hotels to begin with. So I'm really curious because I doubt they've staffed up more. I'm sure the waits are not that are probably not so wonderful either. But, whereas room service used to be something where you might order something late at night if you fancied it or order breakfast. Now that's one of your options for dining, which isn't so much fun. But I see, what's interesting that you see, Mark, I've been seeing the reactions for Atlantic City exactly on both planes, right? I hear exactly what your friends are saying. Like, I'm not coming back until this changes. This sucks. There's not enough places to dine. And then I'm hearing people saying, oh, the new VIP lounge is okay. And I had a good weekend. And I went out to this, I made reservations at this, fine dining place that has it set up outside. And we went to the VIP lounge and it was okay. So I think you make a really good point, depending on who you're speaking to. Some people are having a much better experience than other people are.
Right. And it's more the divide of the have and have nots that we've been seeing for the past 10 years. And it's been happening in the world as well as casinos. And it's even happening. I was listening to a podcast about sports announcers where there's going to be the middle ground is going to be good, but the high revenue sportscasters may go away in the future because there's not enough money to keep them on board. So it's interesting to see how all that stuff is playing out now moving forward.
Yeah, no, it's a really good point, and it's an interesting conversation. Well, I think we've covered about everything that we wanted to talk about today. Are there anything else that's on your mind this week? Any rumors, any really good rumors that you have, Mark, that you want to share with everyone before we say goodbye?
So here's what I know. Sahara's not being imploded. Mirage is not being imploded. Luxor is not being imploded. Where the Rio is still closed and may or may not be imploded, who knows? The Tropicana is seriously, that's the one that might have a future in question. Also Palms as well, as far as properties people know and care about. Station, as I mentioned in Actually, I think I might have mentioned both of these in Vegas news. But stations not sure how and when they're going to reopen, or when and if they're going to reopen Palms, Texas Station, and the 2 Fiesta casinos. And Penn National Gaming said similar about the Tropicana. They're also laying off 300 people over at M Resort this month. So there's a whole hell of a lot of weird stuff happening. That's a little bit beyond what I normally pay attention to, but people are asking me to pay attention to stuff that I normally don't, so I am.
No, that's interesting stuff. Well, I guess we'll have to see. How about you, Steve? Any final intriguing words you'd like to share with everyone?
I guess I should probably plug the fact that we do a podcast regularly, and actually we need to get back to recording and record some content.
But that was so depressing when the casinos didn't open in the UK.
Oh,
they got our hopes up, and then
that's like a long story.
I have a question for Steve. What kind of slot machines do you guys have over in the UK? Do you have like the Britney Spears and all the themed ones that we have, or is it just
they are terrible?
Really bad. Really
it's
bad.
It's like terrible versions of those video slots too.
Okay.
How can I describe them? I don't even know how to describe them, but you don't get Buffalo or anything like that here. No, it's something we miss. I have seen what have I seen? I've seen Diamond Queen here. That's kind of like, and Cats. That's about as good as it gets, really. So this is why I have to like fly for 10 hours, like 3 or 4 times a year.
Understandable. I could not deal with it without my brand names.
Well, the interesting thing is, I basically would I don't go to casinos here. I pretty much never do, because it's just a different experience. It's not a thing at all, personally. But it might be because I don't play table games. But if you're a slot player and you're living in the UK, you really have to go. I mean, you could go to Monaco. And Michael, didn't you find like a casino in Greece or somewhere you could go?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But
there's a reason we've talked about it. We haven't gone deep into it before, but from a regulation standpoint, there's something to do with the regulations with the slot machines of why they can't have them. There's also a really strict regulation on how many slot machines you can have. Yeah. And also a really strict rules about what the maximum jackpot is on slot machines, which is like ridiculous. So it's like not even
like £10,000, I think. And also you're only allowed, the biggest casinos are allowed 150 machines, I think it is. So you have to you have a lot of machines that are like 20 games on one machine, because you can't have loads and loads of machines, if that makes sense. So it's all a little bit screwy. I would not come to London and go to a casino. If you're going to come to London, there's much better things you can do than go to a casino, for example.
But currently, you can't go to a casino or bowl.
You can't anyway, because it's delayed. So we're basically still quite heavily closed still. So who knows what's going to happen? I just can't wait to be able to get back.
Eventually,
I briefly thought maybe I just need to like marry Michael, but he keeps turning me down. A problem with having a wife or something. I don't know.
Yeah, it could be problematic. Yeah, that's. I'm not even going to touch on that one today.
Anything to get into Vegas.
Yeah,
that's how desperate I am.
Yeah, I've noticed that. It's a little scary. Anyway, well, thank you, Mark. Thank you for joining us again, Steve. Thank you for joining us, and everyone have a lovely rest of the week. And, please, feel free to share anytime, anything that's on your mind, especially in the ZorkCast Facebook group. Steve loves to answer your questions, especially about Luxor.
Or Gatwick.
Or Gatwick. Anyway, have a great day, everyone. Bye-bye.
See you later.
Later, beeps.